She walked into the cozy little café, her heart racing, nerves tangled like the strings of her favorite scarf. Today wasn't just any coffee date, it was a blind date. She had reluctantly agreed to, swayed by friends who promised he's different. She barely had enough money for herself, and the thought of ordering something as simple as a coffee felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. When the waiter approached, she hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't afford coffee. Across the table, he raised an eyebrow, a small amused smile tugging at the corners of his lips. He was nothing like she imagined, tall, confident, and undeniably charming. She learned quickly that he wasn't just any man. He was a single dad, a successful CEO, carrying both the weight of his business and the gentle patience of a parent in his eyes. Without a word, he signaled the waiter and ordered 2 coffees, smiling warmly at her in a way that made her cheeks flush. In that moment, she wondered, was this kindness, pity, or the start of something unexpected? As their conversation began, secrets hovered between sips of coffee, and neither of them knew how one simple date could change everything. As they sat across from each other, the cafe's soft music and the gentle clinking of cups created a strangely intimate space. She tried to focus on the small talk, but her mind kept wandering to the man in front of her. His presence was calm but commanding, the kind that made people listen even when they weren't speaking. She noticed the way his eyes softened when he laughed at something small, she said. A subtle kindness that didn't fit the image of a high-powered CEO she had imagined. She stole glances at him, wondering how someone so confident could also seem so approachable. Meanwhile, he was studying her in a way that made her feel seen, not judged, and she felt a twinge of curiosity mixed with nervousness. There was a story behind her hesitation, behind her simple words about not affording coffee, and somehow, he seemed like the kind of man who might want to know it. Yet, there was tension, 2 unspoken questions hanging in the air. Why was she really here? Was she just another blind date? Or was there more at stake than either of them realized? As their coffees arrived, steaming and rich, the quiet between them seemed heavier, as if the next words could change everything. As the first sips of coffee warmed their hands, she felt a mix of relief and anxiety. She wanted to relax, to let the conversation flow, but the truth weighed on her. She had bills piling up, a part-time job barely covering rent, and dreams that seemed just out of reach. Sitting here, across from a man who had everything she didn't, made her feel both invisible and exposed at the same time. He, on the other hand, was juggling his own hidden conflicts. Being a single dad and CEO meant his life was a constant balancing act, decisions made for the company and for his daughter often leaving him drained. He had agreed to this blind date on a whim, hoping for something light, a brief distraction from spreadsheets and board meetings, but there was something about her honesty, her vulnerability, that made him pause. He wondered what it meant that she admitted her struggles so openly, and why that honesty made him want to protect her without even knowing her fully. Around them, life carried on, the barista laughing with a customer, a couple arguing softly over a laptop, but in this tiny cafe corner, tension hung thick. Would trust bridge the gap between their very different worlds? Or was this connection too fragile to survive reality? Every glance, every pause, seemed loaded with questions neither dared ask, yet by now, the cafe had started to empty. The afternoon sunlight slanting through the windows and casting long shadows across the table. She could feel her heartbeat echoing in her chest, each sip of coffee tasting sweeter yet heavier, as if the air itself was charged with unspoken possibilities. He leaned back slightly, watching her with an intensity that made her both nervous and curious. She wanted to hide her anxieties, to act like everything was normal, but something about his presence made that impossible. Their conversation had shifted from casual topics to deeper confessions. She admitted, almost hesitantly, how hard life had been lately, the part-time jobs, the empty fridge, the fear of never catching a break. He listened, not with pity, but with a rare focus that made her feel seen in a way no one had in years. At the same time, she sensed his own vulnerability beneath the confident exterior, glimpses of exhaustion and worry when he thought she wasn't looking. Just as she began to feel a fragile trust forming, a sudden text from his phone made his smile falter, his attention pulled away. She caught the tension flicker in his eyes, a signal that something serious had intruded on this fleeting moment. The warmth between them clashed with the unknown storm lurking outside their little bubble, and for the first time, she realized this blind date might change everything or end before it truly began. He finally set his phone down, but the tension didn't leave his shoulders. She hesitated, unsure if she should ask, but curiosity and concern got the better of her. "Is everything okay?" she asked softly. He looked at her, his gaze conflicted, as if deciding how much to reveal. After a pause, he finally spoke, his voice low and deliberate. "It's complicated. My company is facing a major issue, and I can't let anyone know yet. Not even my daughter." Her stomach tightened. She had expected to hear about meetings or deadlines, but the worry in his eyes hinted at something far bigger, something that could change everything she thought she understood about him. She wanted to reach out, to offer support, but the words caught in her throat. Before she could respond, the cafe door swung open, and a man in a sharp suit glanced around, clearly looking for someone. His eyes landed on them, and the tension in the room doubled. She didn't know who he was, But the way the CEO's jaw clenched told her everything. This was not just about business anymore. Suddenly, what had felt like a simple blind date was now tangled with secrets, power, and stakes far higher than she could have imagined. Every heartbeat seemed louder, the air thicker, as she realized that the choices made in the next few moments could change both their lives forever. He stood abruptly, tension radiating from him as the suited man approached their table. She froze, unsure of what was happening, until he spoke in a low, controlled voice. "We need to leave now." Without explanation, he guided her out of the café, the clatter of cups and the murmur of other customers fading behind them. Outside, the brisk air hit her face, and for the first time, she realized the state had turned into something far more serious than either of them expected. Once they were a safe distance away, he finally explained. The man at the café was an investor threatening to take control of his company, and the meeting had been unplanned. She listened in shock as he detailed the stakes: his daughter's future, his employees' jobs, and the reputation he had built over years. She realized that her simple admission about not affording coffee had somehow broken the tension, showing him she could be trusted, and in that moment, he made a bold decision. He would handle the crisis. But he wanted her by his side not because she had money or connections, but because she reminded him of honesty and courage he rarely saw in his world. Just when relief started to settle, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email. She wasn't expecting a scholarship opportunity she had almost given up on, confirming that sometimes, life's unexpected meetings could change everything in ways no one could predict. The tension slowly eased as they walked together, toward a quieter street, the city buzzing around them but feeling miles away. She glanced at him, noticing the weight of responsibility in his eyes had softened, replaced by something warmer, more genuine. In that moment, she realized how much trust had grown between them in just a few hours, trust that neither wealth nor status could create. He smiled, a mixture of relief and admiration. "You handled yourself today better than I could have imagined," he said, and for the first time, she felt seen not for her struggles, but for her courage. She laughed softly, realizing that even in her own uncertainty, she had found a kind of strength she hadn't known she possessed. Over the next few weeks, their connection deepened. He continued to manage the challenges at his company, now with a renewed perspective, and she pursued the scholarship opportunity that had suddenly appeared, giving her hope for a brighter future. Their worlds, though different, had intersected in a way that changed them both. As they met again for coffee, not blind this time, but intentionally, she realized that life's unexpected twists often lead to the most meaningful connections. And sometimes, a simple act of honesty could open doors neither of them knew existed.